Hey everybody, Vader Saber 1984, also known as that drunk guy and his bullshit opinion, coming to you to address another fact of my life, and that is criminal history. That's right. I am going to cover every single time that I have ever been arrested. Now, why the hell am I doing it? I'll tell you later. But just to let you know, today we are going to be revisiting my past and explaining every reason and what came out of it. So, grab yourself a drink, grab yourself a smoke, grab on your butts, your balls, your boobs, whatever you got, because here we go.
That drunk guy and his bullshit opinion. Freedom of speech, bitch! Yeah! You don't like me? Bite me. They're just opinions.
Hey, it's Teabag.
All right, guys. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing kind of a collaboration of every time I've been arrested, but I'm going to do it in a reverse situation. I'm going to do it to where it's the most recent time I've ever been arrested, all the way back to the very first. Most recent arrest was August 8th of 2015. Now, I was 30 years old, and it was 16 days before my 31st birthday. Now, believe it or not, this arrest is now 10 years old to the day by the time this comes out, being August 8th. But it was for the crime of driving while my license was invalid. And this happened in the city of Abernathy, which is known as Hale County. Now, here's a story. Get pulled over. I think he got me for tail light being out or blinker or something. And I was like, oh, well, I apologize. And everything, gave him my license, no problem. Came back and said, well, your license is invalid. I'm going to have to take you to jail. And I said, I don't know how that works because I have a payment plan that's automatically set up to withdraw from my bank account. And that comes out of my debit card. So I don't know. He goes, it says your license is invalid. You're going to have to figure that out later. Well, what had happened was a few days prior to that, or maybe a week or two, I had lost my debit card and filed for a new one, got the new one in. But what I didn't do was I didn't update the payment with the court on the new debit card. So by the time I get out of jail, I call them up, get everything transferred over. They're like, all right, yep, your license is reinstated. And I said, that's great. Too bad I couldn't do this last night when I was, being pulled over. Just a question, how many more payments do I have left on this? And they said, this is the last one. Gee, thanks, son of a bitch. So the license was reinstated, and, I just had to set up a thing with the bond office, pay them back, do community service, all that crap. But with me getting it reinstated within 24 hours, there was no file of it. So I would call the bond office, and she had no idea of me. She was like, I don't have an arrest record. But here, black and white, I'll show you the picture, the arresting picture right here. A little blurry, but yeah. The only funny side to that story is being in Hale County, it's a very small county, and we were in a very small cell, probably about 40 or 50 deep, all crammed in there like sardines, shoulder to shoulder, just trying to get some sleep. So, did I do something wrong? Yeah, driving while an invalid license, but I didn't know it was invalid. So, got to learn from that. And all right, so moving on to the second most recent time that I was ever arrested happened to be September 3rd, 2011. at the age of 27. This was 12 days after my 27th birthday, and it was for the crime of DWI, Class B misdemeanor. Most people see it as DUI, driving under the influence, but it was driving while intoxicated in the city of Lubbock in Lubbock County. Now, everybody knows what drunk driving is, and little fact is 3% of adults in the United States have either a DUI/DWI conviction, making it to be about 1 in every 35 adults. So, is it a good thing? No, you shouldn't drink while driving. But with this, I wasn't technically drunk while driving. I was texting while driving. And here's how it happened. Now, tons of people will tell you, hey, I got a DWI, but I wasn't drunk. It's bullshit. Well, I myself argued with that officer because I wasn't. Now, you can do semantics and say the point percentage, 0.8, you blow 0.8, you're above the legal limit of driving. I myself had only had 2 beers within the time frame of 4 hours. Wasn't a lot because I had gotten off work, went to meet up with one friend, waiting on another, 2 hours in between both places. As I was leaving the last place on my beer number 2, I was texting on my flip phone to where you had to hit the button 3 times just to get to one letter. And, I got pulled over. And I told the officer, he goes, you know why I pulled you over? And I said, sure do. I was texting while driving and I might have got out of the lines. I apologize. I know I'm not supposed to be texting. If I got to take a ticket, I'll do it, but my bad. He says, have you been drinking? I said, I've had 2 beers in the past 4 hours, sir. Well, then you wouldn't mind giving me a field sobriety test. No, not at all. Stupid mistake, people. Don't ever do that. If you're actually sober, just do the breathalyzer. Field sobriety tests are made to be failed. And I learned that from my lawyer, who I get from this case. And there's more about him, but we'll get to that in a second. But I told the officer, sure, I have no problem doing a field sobriety test. However, I will let you know that I do have 2 permanent screws in my right ankle and only have 82% movement on it, and my balance is not that good. Well, you wouldn't mind doing it on your left then, would you? I guess not. The left was fine, whatever, but the right, no, I stumbled. Now, there was never any true evidence that I was intoxicated whatsoever. The facts are I never got a blood test. I never got a breathalyzer. Never. All he went off of was the dash cam showing that I stumbled on my bad ankle. And I even asked him, hey, can I argue this? Can I contest this? Is there another way we can do it? Because I am not intoxicated. He goes, you can do whatever you want, but you're going to jail. Shit. So, to fight it, I hired a lawyer of a friend of mine who said he was cheap. He helped me out. Well, you'll get what you pay for in the long run, and cheap is what I got. Not only that, but here's a little information for you on my attorney that I got. So while this picture is popping up, I'll go ahead and read it. Posted in Lubbock County News. Tom Stanfield, 44 of Lubbock, originally resigned from the State Bar of Texas, according to the bar's website. A call to the state bar revealed that the resignation was effective on Thursday. That means he is no longer eligible to practice law in the state of Texas. He was arrested August 2015 and indicted for compelling prostitution from a person under 18. He posted bond to get out of jail. Stanfield denied allegations shortly after the case was filed. In late January, the courts recorded that he was charged and dismissed in the interest of justice. However, courts did record the resignation was a part of a deal with prosecutors to get the charge dismissed. But being a former assistant district attorney before starting his own practice, A document was filed early in January, said prosecutors were prepared to present evidence at the trial of Stanfield that was taking kickbacks from defense attorneys during employment with the district attorney's office. That same document accused him of drug and alcohol abuse. The document accused him of the practice of exchanging sexual favors for legal representation. Now, his lawyer did decline that and said case was dismissed. We're pleased, but in the interest of justice, all denied allegations. He also said that the kickbacks and the trading for sex services and drug and alcohol abuse were just that, of allegations, none that got resolved. He does not practice to this day, but it's kind of funny how you get what you pay for. And my friend told me, hey, I used to help him out. He used to sleep on my couch, and he's helped me with a few, it's not true what they say about knowing low people in high places. But yeah, so this was my attorney. What did he get me? Absolutely nothing. I still had to pay all my court fees. I still had to sit time out in jail. Almost 4 years after my case that he got arrested as well. But see, I had to sit out 3 days as a part of my deal with the judge just to avoid like doing any community service. So there does show another arrest from 5/27/15 to 5/31/15. That was me sitting out the remainder of that DWI. So don't drink and drive. Get an Uber. It's way cheaper. Moving to the third most recent arrest that had happened May 8th of 2008. I was 23 years old, and it was for the crime of a warrant out for my arrest. That was an unpaid speeding ticket that I didn't know anything about. Happened here in, you guessed it, city of Lubbock in Lubbock County. Now, I had just moved out of a friend's house and into my mom's for temporary until I could get something else up and going. Wasn't the best time in life, but why were the cops called? They were called at my mother's house because my mom decided to call them after I, in a fit of anger, put my entire fist and arm through my bedroom door from the inside to the outside out of anger. Now, it's a lot of reasoning behind that. It's a lot of boo-hoo, blah, blah, blah. Shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have taken it out because it could have hurt my mom. But the cops do get called. There's a giant hole in my wall, and they're trying to play this whole, you're tearing up your mother's house. That's not respectful at all. And he had an attitude with me. I'm sitting in my room on my bed, literally writing poetry, writing about how angry I was, what I was going through. And so he asked me, why are you tearing up the house? And I replied, it's because I pay all of her bills right now. So therefore, I don't give a shit. I can tear up whatever I want. And what? Probably not the very best thing to say when there's 3 cops sitting in your bedroom and you're nothing but a wife beater and shorts. But I was very hot-headed. I was very cocky. 23 years old. Yeah, well, he went ahead and got my license from me, ran my name, and found out I had a warrant for an unpaid parking ticket. And while I'm being arrested, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I left my phone there, didn't nothing. I'm literally walking out in just my shoes, no socks. My mom's like, I didn't tell you to take him to jail. And I guess an officer stopped and told her that, there was a warrant out for my arrest. I wasn't being arrested for anything that I had done because nobody was harmed. So they get me to jail, and I'm not in a good mood. They're sitting there telling me, yeah, you have a warrant out for your arrest. And I'm swearing up and down that I've paid for these tickets. There's no reason that I should not have a warrant out for my arrest. But they said that since it was such a small warrant and the fine, that it didn't warrant a bond. So I couldn't call a bond office and say, hey, can you bring me $172 or bond me out for that? They don't do that. What am I going to do? Bond out for $17? No, they don't make money off of that shit. So from midnight to midnight is 1. So I got out probably about 10 p.m. the following day, which would technically be day 3, but it was 2 days, 48 hours. And instead of me trying to call somebody to get a ride home, I just walked my still very angry, stubborn ass 5.5 miles all the way back to my mom's. Madder than hell. It was hot, wasn't happy, bad altogether. And hey, did I do that crime? I guess. Nobody has any proof of the ticket. So, whatever. But that was May 8th, 2008. The picture for that arrest, right here. Yeah, you can tell I wasn't going anywhere. Look at that head of hair. Insert hair here. Probably my most despicable mugshot of all time. Now, for the very first arrest that I have ever had, takes place November 6th of 2001. And that is for the crime of a third-degree felony. Yes, and it was for possession of a prohibited weapon in a no-weapon zone. What's that constitute? Any kind of weapon at school. Yes, 17 years old. I was in high school in the city of Seguin, Texas, in Guadalupe County. It was 2 months after 9/11. So it was chemistry class on the way to second period. There happened to be a fight happening right outside the building that we were going into for chemistry. I didn't pay any attention, but I did recognize the guy that was fighting. Don't know about the other one, but his name was Joe, and he actually sat next to me in the chemistry class I was walking to. None of my business, but all I know is it was about his girlfriend or some shit like that. He comes into class. I ask him about what the fight was. He tells me he called my girlfriend a bitch, blah, blah, blah. And, but I had brass knuckles on me, and I was going to hit him with them. But instead, I threw him down and still kicked his ass. He goes, well, they're going to call me into the office, and I don't want them to know I have them. I said, well, I don't want them. He goes, well, can you at least put them in your locker? That way I can go get them when it's all said and done. All right. He gets called to the office. They take him off. I just keep doing my work. And about 5, 10, 15 minutes go by, and there is an officer and a office aide asking for me. And I start walking. The office aide and the cop are probably a good 20 yards ahead of me. There are some bushes next to me. I should have unloaded them and tossed them in the bushes and just been like, do, don't know what, but I'm 17 years old. I am stupid. Get to the office, and he's in one room. I'm in the other. I'm asking the principal what's going on. She says she can't tell me any information, but for me to tell her what I knew. I tell her the exact truth, everything that I saw, from the fight to him telling me about the brass knuckles and him telling me to hold on to them for him. And she says, Travis, do you still have them? And I go, yeah, they're right here. Pull them out, put them on the desk and say, you can have them. I don't want them. You know, whatever. She looks up from her desk. I'm sorry, baby. Called in the cop, and he arrested me for a third-degree felony. Now, the fact that he rats me out and I go to jail at 17, his ass goes to juvenile hall at 15 or 16, whatever he was. It was stupid on my part, and I fought like hell. Now, I was never convicted of this arrest. I actually worked my ass off. I got a good lawyer. I had it expunged from my record because I was planning on going to the Marines. And you can't do that, or couldn't do that then, with a felony on your record. So, got it expunged. Had to spend a whole year in a alternative school. Now, this was a school of the bad of bad kids. And so I had to do half a year there, and the other half of the year I had to sit out. I couldn't go back to school. Finally, did get able to go back to high school. I had to sit in front of a committee. I had to have my dad there. The principal, she actually went to bat for me, told me that, I was a bright kid. I just had a nickel head. All I was trying to do was just help some kid out. I actually saw her on my trip down to Seguin for Leslie's funeral back in March. And I saw her at a restaurant, and I sat and I thanked her, reminded her who I was and everything. And mind you, this was 24 years ago. Still, thank you. You went to bat for me and you got me back into school, and I graduated top 50 in my class. Thank you. And she appreciated it. So here is the picture and the arrest record for 17-year-old me, third-degree felony, never convicted, but I was charged. Now, to just kind of segue a little bit before I close this up, and the reason why I brought this to my YouTube channel, and don't really call it a podcast for this one, but just so everybody knows that about 77 million Americans, 1 in 3 adults, have a criminal record by the age of 23. Mine started at 17. I fall in that sad demographic, unfortunately. That can prevent you a lot in life. Whether it stops you from getting a good job, whether it's government or high-paying job, getting certain licenses like driving or housing or, even higher education purposes. Arrest records do affect that, and they're not something to joke about. But I'm not somebody that sits there and cows my head in defeat because of my mistakes. I live up to them. I learn from them. And quite frankly, the reason why I'm bringing it to everybody's attention is social media. And a few people in the past, because, I have no filter. I just say it, whatever. Tried to post mug shots and thinking that, ooh, they'll shut me up. Ooh, I'll show him he's a criminal. No. All right. If you have the time in life to pull that up, if you're going to spend money to look up my records, you obviously have no life. And if you think it's going to bother me or get under my feathers, wrong again, bitch. Not at all. Matter of fact, let's get to this one. Now, this is a post that I screenshot, and it happens to be the most recent one that tried to attack me for being a criminal. But this person's name is Sarah Elizabeth. Now, no, it is not my ex from Chicago. All right. It's not her. Strange how they have the same fucking name, though. But it was just a stranger on social media who was this holier than thou supporting illegal immigrants' entry into the U.S. and tried to call me a hateful criminal. Well, my response was, here you go. It goes back and forth for a little bit. And quite frankly, I feel like I won that argument because I haven't heard a fucking thing since. So, my response, this video coming to a conclusion, is everybody doesn't have an arrest record, but some people have run into the law. Some people are still in trouble with the law, and hey, they can be bad people. Not everybody who has ever been to jail is a bad person. Sometimes people just make bad decisions. Case in point, me. But I own up to it. Whether it was drunk driving, text driving, whether it was me driving without a license because I didn't know it was suspended, or whether it was stupid ass me trying to help some kid I didn't know in chemistry class so he didn't go to jail. all of these things, do they make me a bad person? On paper, it could. Through Lubbock County, Guadalupe County, Hell County, it could say I am a criminal. Sure. But does it say I'm a bad person? But the fact is if you're going to try and blast somebody for being a criminal just because you're a miserable person and that's the only ammo you got, just shows that you have no life. You have nothing better to do than argue with somebody who's making a stupid comment of his bullshit opinion. If you want to try and attack me for my criminal history, go right the fuck ahead. I don't care. I don't. I've learned from my mistakes. I made them. I learned from them. I lived them. And if you think that's going to be ammunition to try and get me to feel lesser about myself, you failed. So, cheers. Salute, salute. Anyways, guys, Vader Saber 1984, also known as a drunk guy and his bullshit opinion. These are facts of life, quite frankly. You don't like it, sucks to be you, because I can deal with it. Can you deal with your bullshit? Good luck.
This is the best goddamn podcast in fucking Lubbock, Texas. Have fun, y'all.